is your boy, back from the dead at 69 FM, The Head.
The last 35 minutes of the podcast. Well, Jared, for not liking books, went on for a really long time.
The one book I read, I really liked. That was a good book.
Insane! Holy shit!
I really enjoyed it.
You didn't even read it. You listened to an audio.
Don't care.
I
count it as reading.
So, outside of like the Goosebumps series, I really like the Goosebumps. One of my favorite series is the Animorphs series. And anybody that was born in like the late 80s, early 90s probably is familiar with it. It's those books with the people that are CGI transforming into animals, and you could like flip the pages and it would show them transforming in the corner of the page. It's a sci-fi story that is essentially, prior to the start of the series, some neckbeard was really good at playing a video game so well that when his civilization got merged by some kind of weird cosmic force, he essentially became a god. He then watched a war spiral out of control by these weird, they're kind of like blue centaurs. They're like a chimera, like a blue centaur. They're like mouthless. They eat with by absorbing nutrients through the grass with their hooves. They got these wicked whip-like tails with little knives at the end of them. They were traveling around the universe after they got, the ability to travel through space, and they found this weird planet that had a bunch of gross pools of what looked like mercury, like almost like boiling mercury, with these slug creatures in it. And the only other thing on the planet were these weird deformed chimpanzee-looking things that would occasionally be stupid enough to stick their head in the water, and then the things that lived in it, which were these little sentient slugs, would go in their brain and take them over. And then the blue aliens, the Andalites, came up and was like, "Hey man, you want some free technology? We can help you advance a little." And they were like, "Okay." And that worked out stupendously for the brain people because they got access to spaceships and were like, "Hey man, we now have this technology where we can just take the pool with us and create artificial sunlight," because they're basically like protozoa where they use photosynthesis, except their photosynthesis involves living inside of this weird mercury like liquid, and then the sunlight from their sun goes into that water and filters in, and they kind of absorb the light that way. So they went, alright, we can make a portable version of this. Let's get off our fucking planet and start doing some shit. So they start cruising across the galaxy, taking over other alien species, and the guy that helped them do it became an outcast in his culture, and they were like, "It's your fault. We're making a law based on your name that says, hey, don't interfere with other species." So then they come across this species that the brain parasites, the Yeerks as are super into. They're these giant, like 8-foot lizards with just razor blades all on their limbs and head and stuff. They look like they're terrifying warriors, but they're mentally stunted, childlike tree minders, essentially. There's a bunch of trees on their planet, and the knives and stuff that are the blades that come out of them are just used for cutting different types of bark. They were created by a race of like these weird owl-looking creatures to essentially take care of the trees on their planet. And then they died out. So the only thing left are these big lizards. And the guy that fucking gave the Yeerks their technology, his family was moved to that planet, and they're like, "Hey man, if the Yeerks show up, you gotta let us know." So they're there learning stuff about these creatures' cultures. They're like, they're not even warriors. They're like soft-brained children. Then the Yeerks show up. They took over a race of creatures called the Taxon. They're these big, bloated, fucking centipede-like creatures that are constantly hungry. They gave themselves willingly to the Yeerks because their entire existence was, hey, we're constantly starving. And if one of us even brushes up against sandpaper and starts to bleed a little, everybody's jumping that motherfucker, and we're gonna eat them. So they were like, oh, we can help you guys with that if you partner with us, because you guys have a bunch of arms, you're really good at it would be really good for you to like pilot our ships because those ships have a bunch of different controls. You guys can do everything almost at once. So they come down with these fucking aliens, and they start fucking with these like tribal, like soft brain lizards, and they eventually start getting a hold of them. Well, the main character of this book, aside from one of the lizards, is the daughter of the guy that helped the Yeerks get spaceborne. She starts getting a soft spot for these creatures, and then finds out that her entire race was like, okay, in order to stop them from getting a hold of these plentiful, dangerous razor lizards, we're gonna create a gene bomb that destroys their entire society.
So Halo.
Yeah, pretty much. So she basically, a bunch of them are taken off-world by the Yeerks, and the rest of them that are still there that are kind of like trying to fight back to not get controlled. The girl ends up, because the whole point of this is the Animorphs. The Andalites made a technology that allows them to absorb and replicate the DNA of other creatures through physical contact. She turns into one of the main character lizard guy's dead wife, then stays in that form for 2 hours because there's a time limit. And basically she stays on the planet to fight them, and then they basically get G-bombed in Kingdom Come. And this isn't even the beginning of the fucking story, because you don't get all of this until they start coming out with side book. So we're getting the war eventually kind of ramps up to where the one of the, they call them princes, they're basically generals in the army. Prior to him becoming a prince, he was like a soldier, Elfangor. Him and his buddies are like low-level soldiers. They're on a ship. They find some Yeerks. They start fighting them. Turns out the Yeerks found out about humans because some gray aliens abducted them from Earth. So this Andalite starts kind of falling for the Earth girl that was picked up, and they go through this crazy bullshit. His friend gets stuck as one of the Taxons, and they think he's dead. And then the God guy comes back and goes, "Hey man, you should just like..." Oh no, this is before that. So he ends up morphing into a human and getting stuck as a human because they end up back on Earth. And then they basically I think they had their memories wiped or something. No, they didn't. They end up back on Earth. Elfangor and the girl have a kid. And then the god goes, "Hey, the war's not going so great, and I found out that there's an evil god that I'm playing chess with, essentially, and you're my best piece on the board, so I need you to just straight up pull a deadbeat dad and leave." And he's like, "Won't anybody remember me?" And he's like, "That's the beauty of it. I can wipe everybody's mind so they'll never remember you were here." And he's like, "Bet?" So he gets transported back to the war, into his original Andalite form. And him and his brother are on a fucking ship to go save Earth, because he's the only one that remembers Earth is under attack.
It's sad, and it's will mean be like, "Won't anyone remember me?" And like, that's the neat part. He won't.
Yeah, exactly. So the slug aliens, basically their MO for taking over planets is that they slowly infiltrate. So they'll send some scouts down, they'll figure out how to get a hold of a species, and they'll implant a Yeerk in their head. And then they will slowly climb the chain of command of that planet until they are the ones calling the shots, and then they'll take over. That's when all their warships will... The problem is that right now they're fighting a war on two fronts, because they're trying to infiltrate Earth, but they're also trying not to get the shit kicked out of them by the Andalites, who are in constant combat with them. Who are basically like blood feuding with them at this point. Because they pretty much are the reason why you're doing any of this.
Yeerks are like the slug things, right?
Yeah.
I like how the Yeerks, and the moment they're given like technologies and a body to move around it and sentience, they immediately became mad with power and tried to take over everything.
That's the thing. They go into this in the story as to why they did it. It's because because their whole species is basically just a parasite species, but they were sentient technically in a way. When they got a hold of the blue chimpanzee creatures that evolved alongside them on their planet, their eyesight and hearing was so like all their senses were super poor. And then they managed to get, they were like, "Oh, can we see another body?" And then, because the Andalites were like, trying to see what their species was about. When they got a hold of another species and their senses were way sharper, it was like they had. It's like when you think about how we used to only have like we could only watch programming that was already made. We couldn't like pause anything or anything. And then we get fucking YouTube, and then everybody just straight went to YouTube. It's like that, but on like a worse scale, like on a genocidal scale. And they were like,
I thought you were gonna say like it's like it's basically like you watching everything like in a blurry sense, and then the first time you get glasses, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, it would be like that, and then the idea going, oh, back. This was just an experiment. It's like when Daredevil had vision because Superior Iron Man gave him his sight back to prove that he could, and then it was like, you only have it for 24 hours. It's basically that. So, the Yeerks end up coming back into Earth space, and they come across the other guy that got picked up. He becomes a central, well, not a central character, but he's like a recurring character. His name's Chapman. He becomes the main character's principal of the school, but he's the one that basically sold out Earth, because he was like, oh yeah, we come from this planet and there's so many people and blah blah blah, and the Yeerks were like, that's like a level blah 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 society, we need to get in that, like a fucking rapist in the dark, we need to get in that, which is a pretty good analogy for them when you think about it. He becomes one of the first controllers, and then they start infiltrating Earth. And then Alfangor's like, oh fuck, man, I had a bitch on that planet. We need to get there now. And his little brother's like, hey, I'll go with you. And he's like, yeah, fuck yeah. So they bring their, like, one of their better ships, and they're like, entering the atmosphere. And then fucking, because they lost an Andalite. I forgot to mention that. One of the Andalites that was, like, a general prior to the Alfangor becoming a general, he was actually I think their commander. He got infiltrated because one of the Yeerks jumped that motherfucker and got inside of him, and he's the only ever, like, Andalite controller in the entire Yeerk army. So they bump him from, like, a low-level grunt all the way up to, like, top 3 outside of their, like, homeworld council. So he's like...
Hey, I got 2 tangents before you get any further. Because when you were talking about the Yeerks, right? They remind me a lot of the Gaul from Stargate. Essentially, the Gaul were these slug creatures that essentially took over planets, portraying themselves as gods, and enslaved the other, like, essentially humans of the planets. Legitimately one of the strongest, like, race of things that, like, try to take over the universe. Despite being the fact that they're all essentially slug parasites that live inside of other creatures. That, and I thought you were gonna say, it's like, oh yeah, they're invading Earth, right? I have a bitch on that planet, and his brother's like, oh yeah, let me go with you. So they go back to Earth and they Eiffel Tower the bitch.
That would be fucking hilarious.
That's what you're gonna say.
I'd read that book, fuck.
Yeah.
Wait, did you just say Eiffel Tower the bitch? Like, what?
Yeah.
You know what Eiffel Tower is?
That's where you
okay,
them, and then you, like, high five, basically, like you guys are hand to hand.
No, Spills is a different thing. I think he's talking about how, like, that they're doing the vertical on the vertical on the DPVNA.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure. Look at this.
Kids, learn how to spell.
Anyways, oh Jesus, coming from you?
I know, right?
Start. Anyways, yeah. So fucking Alfangor and his brother roll up into the galaxy, and it's just a weird fucking thing to say. And this fucking battle axe shaped spaceship comes out, and lo and behold, it's the fucking motherfucker that got a hold of the Andalite, the Yeerk that got a hold of the Andalite. He shoots their ship down, basically, in the realm of, like, Earth. The brother ends up under the water, like, in the part of the ship that survives. He's in the fucking ocean on Earth. The brother, Alfangor, he takes an escape pod and jumps down towards Earth to try and warn people. And he basically Zordons this shit where he finds 5 teenagers with attitude who decide to walk through a fucking construction zone. They're not really friends. So the 2 girls on the team are friends. They're like best friends. And then 2 of the boys on the team are best friends. And then you got Tobias, who's super important because he's Elfangor's son. They reveal that later on, that he is actually the son that Elfangor left his wife with mid-car drive. They crash their fucking car. The kid survives. The wife survives, but she's blind and has amnesia. So that becomes a plot point later on. So Tobias just gets dumped on relatives left and right from the wife's side, obviously, because Elfangor's family's in fucking goddamn space. So he gets passed around the country like a goddamn shitty doobie. He gets saved by the leader of the group, Jake, and basically just follows him around like a fucking puppy. Even though the TV show makes him look like this really cool, like, heartthrob teen, he's supposed to be a big loser. He gets picked on all the time. Jake was the one that saves him. So you got Marco, who's Jake's best friend, and then you got Rachel and Cassie, who are the best friends, and the only connection between the two sets of best friends is that Rachel and Jake are cousins. So Jake kind of knows Cassie, he's got a crush on her. Marco knows Rachel because he hangs out with Jake. Tobias, completely there by accident, because apparently the fucking god that shitted fucking Elfangor out to space again during their car ride was like, hey, you're Elfangor, so you get in there, go kid, you go, you get in there. You're the fifth member. You're the fabulous fifth Beatle. So they go through this fucking construction site to get home. Can you fuck off? Just ads. Leave me alone. So they go through this construction site, and as they're going through this pod fucking crash lands, I don't know. I'm not taking it. They can go to hell.
You get a lot of spam calls.
Yeah, I do. So the ship crashes, and Deathbed Elfangor comes out and uses his, because they don't have mouths, they use telepathy to talk. And he's like, hey, if there's anybody out here, you need to get the fuck out of here now. Your planet's doomed because there's a secret invasion going on. I can break my people's laws and help you win by letting you turn into fucking animals. And they're like, I don't know if we want to trust this guy. And Tobias is like, I'm weirdly compelled to trust this guy. So he walks out there.
Again, I hate the way my head works. Elfangor is like, there's an invasion coming on. There's two brothers out there in space, Eiffel-towering people.
He's one of those brothers.
If you join me, I can turn you into fucking animals. So there's just animals Eiffel-towering other animals.
It's two brothers in a van, and then a meteor happens, and
they Eiffel Tower a bit.
I don't know why, but it's ways that Tobias is like compelled to help this guy. I remember that one Edgeworld video where Tom got like the ability to time travel. Like no, it was Matt. Matt got the ability to time travel, and they're like, oh man, I really hate love Matt.
Yeah, that one. Oh my god, I remember that. Fucking So, anyways, Tobias is compelled to do it because the fucking god of their world is like, go do it, go trust your daddy. So they get out there.
Hold up, say that again. Go do it.
Yeah, exactly. So, the other four go up, and he's like, you have to touch the sides of this cube, and then you'll gain the power. So he gives them this power, and as he's doing this, the fucking they refer to it as the blade ship. It's the one that's shaped like a battle axe. The one that the higher ranking, well, in the Yerk's military, they have things called visors. So there's sub-visors, which are like lieutenants, and then you got visors, which are general. And he's the third ranked general. And he comes down in the ship, and the kids take off and hide, and it's like gloating. He's doing the fucking Saturday morning cartoon villain thing. Turns into a giant reptilian creature and just swallows that motherfucker. Dead. He's gone. Out of the fucking story. God decided that was his ending. He went out a heroic death so he couldn't reincarnate. Then the kids, frightened by this fucking thing, fucking one of them steps on something. The guy realizes it and orders his lizards and human-controlled Yerks to go get these motherfuckers. They manage to run, and what I refer to as a bit similar to John Mulaney, where he goes, all I remember was that I was running away from the cops. We were all drunk teenagers. I was running away from the cops, and I remember seeing a fence that was really high and going, I never climbed a fence that high, and then I woke up It's basically just that. They all scatter. They basically get out of the construction site. It's each book's narrated by the person that's on the cover normally, so it's Jake narrating. So basically, they just all got home without any of these fucking advanced alien people finding them. Then Tobias shows up at his house and he's like, "Hey, check this out! I could turn into my cat." And because the clothes don't morph with you, he just started shrinking in his clothes, and then a cat came out. And when you morph, you talk in the telepathy. So they end up realizing the first book is kind of them trying to come to with the idea of essentially being inscripted into child soldierhood in a sci-fi war.
Hold on. Did the author added this part of the story, or did they find an upgrade version to where like their clothes morphs with them?
No. So what happens is they learn after a while of morphing that if they have skin tight clothes, they can morph that into the morph. Eventually, I think later on they learn how to morph clothes properly, but it's way towards the end of the book. They basically refer to the skin tight stuff as their morphing outfits. So the boys get bike shorts and undershirts, and then the girls usually have like leothards. And then
at the rate it's better than being a humanomorph.
Oh god, don't even get me started. Anyways, so they decide that they're gonna become inscripted into this fucking war, except for Tobias, who has been kicked shitless by life because a god decided that his dad needed to go as planet needed him in the middle of a car ride. And so Tobias, whose only morph he's ever acquired other than his cat, was a fucking hawk. They were told the rules of morphing. They were like, if you go 2 hours, you get stuck. You can't go from one morph into the other. You have to go back into your form, and then you morph into that. And apparently they realized that clothes don't morph. So when they go down to the Yerk Pool, which is this big underground facility that's been constructed under their fucking town, because the Yerks have been there for a while, apparently. And they see the horrors of like people getting these slugs coming out and then them screaming because they were basically had locked in syndrome where they could see and hear everything that was going on but couldn't do anything about it because it was in control. And then they also find out that there's people that are willingly doing it and it makes them physically ill. They go, fuck this, let's turn into these morphs that we have. So they went to a zoo that Cassie's mom works at. They all have these individual things about them. Jake's like the regular everyday boy who just dreamed about doing sports and is now a murderous leader. Marco's his best friend that cracks jokes under stress even though he's super sad because his mom fucking died and his dad's a depressed sack of shit that works a dead-end job so they're poor. Rachel's family is the divorced family where her dad is divorced from her mom and he lives like really far away. They're both news anchors but one's in a different city. So it's her and her two siblings that live with their mom, and then they occasionally see. Cassie's parents are, I think the dad just works full time at their house because they're an animal rescue group essentially. They rehabilitate animals. Her mom is a fucking zoologist / vet at the fucking local zoo. That's this huge zoo / amusement park. So whenever they need morphs, they just either go to her house or go to the fucking zoo. And then Tobias, I already basically explained all of Tobias's shit. He's the fucking, like, loser outcast guy that doesn't think too highly of him. So, they all get these battle morphs from the zoo. And they start wrecking house. And then they go, we're not winning this because we're almost dead. Like, we need to get as many people as we can out. So they help as many people as they can get out of the cave. And they start demorphing. And that's when they learn that, like, any injuries you take while you're morphed or when you were human and then you morphed, heal. So they get a healing factor too, which is just the authors realizing that they kind of fucked up the idea that, oh, well, what happens if we try to kill them? We want to make it really gruesome because it's supposed to be an anti-war book. So they're getting out there, where's Tobias? And they're like, we don't know. So then a hawk shows up at Jake's house and he's like, I'm stuck. And he's like, you son of a bitch. Now there's only 4 of us. And so they kind of go through this story where they just use Tobias as like a scout because he no longer has to go to school or anything. He's got like, in one of his books, he talks about how it's like difficult for him to be a hawk because now it's like he can't eat human food. He's not a normal kid anymore. He's got this like crisis going on where he has that crisis of identity. They caught him eating roadkill one time. Eventually, he learns to accept it. He goes, no, I'm a hawk. I'm just a hawk with a boy's brain. That's all I am now. So eventually, they find the brother. He was in the ocean. They get him out. He becomes part of their team, sort of. He's not really an official Animorph, because if you read on the back of the book, it's always like, the Animorphs, and Axe. Like, he's not an official Animorph, he's just kind of like their ally that's just with them all the fucking time, and explains alien shit to them. They find out that Marco's mom isn't actually dead, she's Visor 1. So, she's basically the super lead of, like, taking over Earth. Marco has this crisis of like, I'm gonna have to kill my mom at some point.
I'm sorry. When we mentioned that the Axe is not an official Animorphs according to the books, like we're the Animorphs and Axe. There was a human Animorph.
God damn it! No.
Right, he's the alien that like gave them their powers.
He's the brother.
He's the brother. Oh,
yeah,
right.
He's the
that Eiffel Tower.
You're half the Eiffel Tower. It's 1/3 of the Eiffel Tower. You're two guys doing the Eiffel Tower. That's just docking. That's not Eiffel Tower. I'm sorry. Sorry to burst that bubble, internet. They also find out about a race of these like dog-shaped androids that are kind of like use holograms to hang out and stuff. Their people created them like really long ago, to the point where they existed like they're the reason why man was able to domesticate dogs, more or less. That's how old they are. And then they just switch up their holograms and identity everyone. Back then the internet was in its infancy, so you could just literally hack it normally as like a person, but they're advanced androids, so they're really good at hacking it. They're super strong, but the problem is that they come from a peaceful race, so they have a thing in their head that makes it so that they cannot perform acts of violence. In one of the books, the Animorphs go, that's not going to work for me, brother, a la Hulk Hogan, and they find the control module for it, and they take the guy that's helping them, I can't even fucking remember his name. It was like something, Eric. His name was Eric. He was named after a person that won a contest. So his name was Eric King. So this android is like, I want to help you guys fight these Yeerks because this is bullshit. So they push the button, and like right as they're about to die, because the Animorphs were getting fucking the dog shit kicked out of them. They were basically all dead. And then when they come back to life, there's just paste where living beings used to be. A blood-covered android having PTSD going, nah, this ain't for me, man. You put that chip thing back in my head, brother. I don't like this. I did it to help you guys. This is the one freebie you're getting. I'm never doing that again. We'll help you infiltrate, like, we'll help you spy on the Yeerks and stuff, because our holograms and our because they have this little thing in them that's like a container that they can store Yeerks in, so when they go through because the Yeerks start doing scanners so that people without Yeerks can't infiltrate, the androids are like, hey, we can steal Yeerks from people and put them in our head, and then we'll be able to go through and nobody will be able to tell the wiser. They eventually come up with a way to get through holograms, so the fucking androids become virtually useless at that point. But then they come to a point where the god that was fucking with them, essentially, he gets introduced, and then like 5 books later goes, hey Tobias, do you want to be a human again? And he's like, yes, I love this girl named Rachel on the team. I would really much like to be a normal human. He's like, if I give you this power, you can't turn back into an animal. You will be stuck as a human if you decide to stay human. You need to decide. So the premise of this promise was, hey, there's a bunch of those big lizards, Hork-Bajir. There's a bunch of these big lizards on your planet that are living in the woods that escaped the Yeerks, and the Yeerks are going to come and take them back. I want you to help them be free. I'm going to take from Native American lore, I'm going to be their white buffalo. I'm going to find them a mountain where nobody can get to because it's magically protected, essentially, where nobody can find it. So they're like, alright, cool. So Tobias, who's narrating this, gets shit stomped in the fight while trying to free them, and then falls to the ground and a raccoon's gonna eat him, and he's like, fuck, and the fucking god comes back and he's like, "Hey Tobias, I got morphin powers for you. You're doing a good job, but once this is all said and done, you'll be a hawk with the ability to morph." And he's like, "All right, cool, give me." So he morphs the raccoon to heal his injuries. The raccoon freaks out because it's a mirror image of the fucking raccoon appearing out of a hawk. Then he turns back into a hawk. Then he goes, "Hey, big lizard guy, I can come you now? Give me your DNA." So him and Rachel morph the mating pair of Hork-Bajir because the authors are not subtle. And they lead the Yeerks on a wild goose chase while the rest of the team leads the other Hork-Bajir to Magic Mountain, essentially. They lead them to Witch Mountain, and they start a colony there. And eventually the two mating pair actually have a kid. It turns out that the creatures that created the Hork-Bajir did not know that there was an abnormality in their DNA, and occasionally one will be born with like basic human level intelligence. And when that happens, they become the leader of their tribe. So when the two mating pair that became the thing that kind of jump started this whole thing have a kid, the kid's super fucking smart and named after Tobias. Her name's Toby. She's like a child leader of their group because she has an IQ above 2 digits. And so time goes on. Like Tobias, basically the guy's like, "All right, you did a good job. I'm going to use my ability to warp reality to send you back in time. Then I'm going to pull what I did with your family and erase the used memory, so you have your human morph. But if you decide to stay in that human morph, you're not getting a second chance, brother." So the whole thing behind that whole thing was that Rachel wanted him to go to a dance with her, and he couldn't do it because he's a fucking hawk, and he knows that she wants to go to this dance because she's a gymnast. She's like battle hardened. She like gets really violent, but she's like a girly girl style gymnast. She likes fashion and she likes being popular and shit, like basically. So he morphs human, goes to the dances like, "This isn't permanent. I'm not gonna stay. I want to help you guys fight." So we continue along. Eventually, we get a book where they go into. They explain how the morphing process works, because the morphing process breaks the laws of conservation of mass. So the authors, because there's two, it's actually a wife and husband duo, but they write under the name K.A. Applegate. They decide that whenever they morph, if they morph into something big that's bigger than them, they take a bunch of imaginary mass from this place called Z-Space. And it allows their form to be, the form that it is. And when they become smaller, it extrudes their excess mass out. So the other thing that Z-Space is used for is faster than light travel, and a ship just so happened to travel through that point while they were mosquitoes, hit their forms in Z-Space, and shove their consciousness into that mass. So they exist at 2 points in time, but time seems almost frozen for them in Earth because, again, faster than light travel. So they end up traveling with a bunch of Andalites to this planet to try and save these weird telepathic frog things. Right as the battle's getting almost kind of like even, because they start getting slingshotted back. So it's like one by one they stop existing on that planet. And then they go back to being mosquitoes, which the original plan was to see if they could absorb DNA, because you have to absorb a living creature. But they figured if they just touch the blood, could they absorb DNA? That never gets answered, by the way. Never answered. The whole time thing that they experienced was actually explained in another book. There's a book where the group steals a super advanced, they call them bug fighters, because they look like insects, from the Yeerks, and they're flying, and Visitor 3 shoots them, and they try to counter back with a weapon and creates this weird time rift, and they end up in South America. And the entire time, Jake, who's narrating the book, keeps getting these flash of visions of like jungles and stuff while he's awake, and almost passing out. It turns out it's something that they invented called a stereo rift, where time gets distorted, and you exist in two places at once, and both minds are kind of connected in a way that they will get visions. And eventually you just kind of get slingshotted back to a time before the rift was created. So all the morphs they get in the jungle, just non-existent. Just don't even worry about it. And then they go on to take that, because some of the side books that they write aren't about like the world building. Some of it is just extra stories they wanted to write about the Animorphs that never get mentioned in the series, because the first one was like a regular story. It was like this weird fucking insect things that the Yeerks found near Jupiter that can sense when people morph, and they were using them to try and find what they thought were Andalite bandits, which were just four kids in an Andalite. They eventually defeat that thing, and then the next, I think it's like 4 books after that are all like side book, never get brought up in the regular series because all of them have to do with time travel. So they go back in time to when dinosaurs exist. No dinosaur morphs. They end up in a hopping across multiverses where Jake's a fucking skinhead neo-Nazi. Never brought up because it's time travel, and Serial Rift just resets anything that happens. So,
but is it the same around time where Jake acquired his T-Rex transformation?
He did that in the one where they go back into, and then they try to make it seem like Tobias is heartless because there was 2 alien species that lived on Earth during the time of the dinosaurs, and they were warring with each other. And then Tobias is like, "Why the fuck do we care? The meteors are gonna hit that thing." And then Cassie, because she's an animal lover and a bleeding heart, she's like, "No, we have to save them." And he's like, "No, we have to let them die. You're gonna fuck up the timeline." And then the book tries to portray Tobias like he's the asshole because he's like, "No, we have to preserve the timeline." So they eventually right after that, the book, Cassie gets trapped in a caterpillar morph because a Yeerk finds out that there are kids that morph, and the Yeerk just wants to fuck with her, I guess, and she's like, "Oh, if you leave," Cassie's like, "If you leave the girl, I'll trap myself and you won't have to worry about it." And she's like, "I bet." So she turns into a caterpillar. She's stuck as a caterpillar. The team finds out. They're watching over her. She becomes a chrysalis, turns into a butterfly, and regains the ability to morph. So if you're stuck as an animal that can metamorph into a different life stage, even though they're technically the same species, you can gain your morphing powers. Which I bet Tobias kind of, well, no, because Tobias wouldn't wish that. Because he was
a butterfly that can morph, or is she human again?
No, she's human again. It reset her clock.
Oh.
No god magic this time. It literally was just like, oh, if you become a species that, so if you absorbed like a baby ant, like a larval ant, and then you went through that thing's life cycle to become a regular ant, in theory you would gain your morphing power back and you would gain your original.
Wow.
So then they meet an asshole of a character named David, who, for whatever reason, they decided that they were going to hide this cube in the fucking construction site where they were at on the night that the aliens started attacking them. He finds the device, and it goes online, like, "Hey, I found this really cool cube." And Marco's like, "Son of a bitch." So he's like trying to talk to this guy. He's an edgy fucking military brat with a defanged cobra for a pet. The guy is like really asshole-ish to Marco, and Marco's like, "Look, man, you gotta give me a cube, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "Fuck you." So, I guess it's just Jake and Marco. Yeah, it was Jake and Marco are the only 2 people out of the 5 human members of the group whose parents became controllers, which is what they call when Yeerks entered the brain. So Jake's got his brother who's a controller, and then fucking Marco's got his mom who's one of the 3 top generals in the fucking army. So David, they're like, they try to let him in. They're like, "Look, man, this is an alien invasion. You don't know who's controlled. You obviously aren't a controller, or you wouldn't be going around with this cube, throwing it up in the air in broad daylight, or going, 'Hey, man, I found this really neat cube,' and posting images online. So you need to come with us." And he's like, "No, I want my parents." So it turns out that his dad, who's actually a secret agent, is a controller, because they've already infiltrated up towards the government. They're already trying to hit world leaders. The whole David saga, as it's called, is essentially Yeerks are trying to take over the UN. So the invasion seems to only be within America for some reason. And they're trying to get leaders from the UN to walk through this hologram that makes it look like they walk off into another room, when in actuality, there's a portable Yeerk pool that they're just swirling these world leaders in. But during the midst of all this chaos, David's house gets destroyed. He gets, they finally let him in on the secret. They go, "Look, we're going to have to make him an Animorph because it's the only way he's going to be able to protect himself." and he's like, oh cool, I get to turn into animals, this is sick. So the part that he didn't realize was that they're gonna treat him like an animal the entire fucking last 2 books of this saga. There's only 3 books. And he gets to be an Animorph at the end of the first book of the saga. So in the second book, they basically make him live in Cassie's. He has to have hand-me-down clothes. People have to bring him food. He can't go outside. He can't talk to anybody. Which is incredibly infuriating because at this point in the story, Axe has constructed an Andalite like dome-shaped house. They like domes for some reason. I don't know why. Their main ships are the dome ships. He made a fucking like dome house called a scoop. The man has fucking cable TV. He gets satellite TV in his house in the forest because of his advanced setup. And Tobias sometimes hangs out there. But they went, nah, you live in this stinky barn with all these horrible animals. And so during one of the things they have to morph human. They fucked up a mission to do scouting. They fucked up. So they end up having to morph midair and then morph into seagulls and then fly down, and then they're like, okay, they know we turn into seagulls, we need to like fucking we need to just become human and blend in. So they go in, and Tobias, whose human morph apparently just never had clothes. Oh no, it was Tobias, because that was their whole thing. Tobias goes into a store in his hawk form and grabs some like basic clothing for everybody, like not just their morphing suits. And David goes, why did we do that? I thought you guys said we don't use our powers to like steal and shit. And they're like, well, nobody's gonna charge a hawk for it. And he goes, and the little box in the corner of the screen goes, David will remember this. So David, who's tired of living in a stinky barn with Cassie's dumb annoying ass, decides, hey, I'm gonna go live in a hotel for. So he picked for his bird of prey morph. They wanted to give him a smaller bird of prey because they wanted faster and more agile. He went, fuck that. I want the golden eagle because you guys showed me 2 different morphs and then tried to tell me, no, we're giving you the smaller one, like I was going to get a choice in the matter. So they give him the golden eagle. So the motherfucker uses the golden eagle to take a rock and smash the window of a hotel room on like the top floor. It's like a penthouse, like fucking hotel. Fly in there and just order, like, just fucking use his dad's credit card for room service. And the team finds out and like they're like, what the fuck? Why did you do that? And he went, well, nobody's gonna arrest an eagle for doing it. And it's like, bitch, you're not an eagle. You're a guy that can turn into an eagle. Tobias is literally a hawk with the ability to turn into a boy. It's a completely separate world. So eventually, Jake and this boy get into a fight, and because at one point he had asked, because his battle morph was a lion, and Jake's is a tiger. And while they're in the middle of a fucking mission, David goes, hey Jake, do you ever wonder who would win in a fight between a tiger and a lion? Which is a major red flag that nobody picked up on. So they're basically like, fuck you, David, like, you can't do this. And he's like, I can't live in a fucking stinky barn while all you guys get to live with your families? Fuck that. So they're like, bro, like, if you're gonna be like this, don't come back. And he's like, bet? So he fucks off. He ends up getting into a fight with Jake at one point and uses his lion morph to beat the shit out of the fucking tiger morph. Because for those of you that don't know, lion mane's good at protecting male lions' necks from being punctured, which is the main way tigers kill things. So he basically had a counter morph. So then David fucking goes off the goddamn rails. This man finds out that Jake and Rachel have another cousin who was in an accident and is paralyzed. And so while he's being moved to a different room, David jumps into this fucking elevator, knocks out the doctors, acquires this fucking catatonic man, is implied that he throws the motherfucker's body down the elevator shaft, morphs into him, and the guy's family goes, it's a miracle, he's come back. And then Jake and Rachel are like, the fuck is going on here? And he's like, I'm gonna have a normal life, y'all can go fuck yourselves. Like, you really wanna take this away from your fucking uncles and aunts that I fucking their son miraculously made a recovery? Or are you gonna fucking rat me out, motherfuckers? Which becomes the case anyways, because they have to get rid of him. So at one point, they're doing reconnaissance and they're swimming as dolphins. This motherfucker shows up as a goddamn orca and starts attacking them. Mid-mission. He's like, I've become your fucking main villain, fuck you guys.
He's the anti-Flash.
Yeah, the reverse Flash, yeah.
Yeah, reverse
He's
Flash,
there just
that's
to
it.
fuck with him, yeah. So, eventually...
It was me, Jake. I was the one that froze time and dragged you off, so you came on a single touch of your girlfriend.
It was me, Jake. You don't understand. I pushed your cousin down an elevator shaft while he was comatose. He's dead and rotting in the elevator shaft, brother. So they come up with this plan where it's just like, he's like, maybe if I give the box to the Yeerks, they'll leave me alone. So he wants the box. So they're like, okay, well, we disassembled the box, which is something they can't do, but he doesn't know that. And they're like, we hid it in a junkyard so you wouldn't get a hold of it, and the only way to get to it is to morph Rat and go in and get it. And he's like, alright, fine, but I'm taking Rachel with me because she's a huge piece of shit that I fucking was watching in the shower as a fly going, you fuck with me, I'm gonna kill you. Like a psychopath. So he ends up following them.
Watching her in the shower?
Yes, he basically he was basically, that was what their whole fear was that because he has the power to morph, he could morph small things and spy on them and like keep tabs on them, which is how he knew about their fucking mission and fucking became an orca whale and started fucking up. So
at that point, what's the whole point of antagonizing them if he gets no benefit from it?
He does get a benefit from it. He'll be the only Animorph. They can't come after him because they're outside of the Yeerks. They're the only other people that have been antagonistic towards him in his mind. So if he takes them out, he'll only have to worry about the Yeerks. And if he gives them the cube, the Yeerks become a non-issue. So they go, it's down this pipe. So Rachel and him go down this pipe, and he goes past her, and he's like, it's down there. So he goes down there, and it's like, oh, cool, I'll just go and grab the cube. Turns out they had a rat catcher cage there. He gets in, and when he tries to demorph, it hurts him because he's stuck in this cage. So they leave him in the cage until it's past 2 hours. They give it extra time, too, just in case, because they've shown in the books that even after the 2 hour mark, it's not like a solid, like, oh, immediately 2 hours you're stuck. You, with some effort, as long as it hasn't gone too far past the second hour, you can, with extreme effort, turn back to normal. But it's very, like, exhausting when you do it. Because it's basically you forcing yourself back into that morph. And then eventually it just kind of sticks.
I guess it was too strenuous for Tobias.
No, he went past the 2 hour mark on purpose. Because his life was shit. So he was like, oh, if I'm a hawk, I could just fly away from my problem. And then like 4 hours later came back and went, well, I got stuck in morph by accident. And it's like, it wasn't shit.
Accident,
so,
quote unquote.
They trap this motherfucker as a mouse, and then they take him to a rock that's out in the middle of the ocean and leave his ass there. And he becomes a fucking urban legend. Because he's using telepathy, he's screaming in telepathy to anybody that can hear him, I need to get me off this island. And people are like, man, that's like a fucking ghost or something. So, eventually, after the David saga, you start getting ghost writers, so you start getting really stupid stories, like these fucking aliens that are really small. They want the cube because the cube has a bunch of like infinite energy in it, and they want empire. They've got two warring factions on two different ships. All of them are led by women, or no, they're higher up. Their higher up unit are all women. Men can't move up in the ranks. All their officer class are women, and their leader is dead because a dead leader can't make mistakes in their mind. So shrinking stuff ensues eventually, and they that for some reason acquiring and morphing giant anteaters makes you just become regular sized anteaters, and also it helps them capture all the aliens that are attacking Mouth. And this includes Visor 3, because he also got because he was like, haha, the cube is mine, and then they shrunk him. And it's like, you bitches! The Andalite Bandits, I'll work with you one time and that's it. And so, you get other stories that are actually alright, like, fucking, there's one where Rachel morphs into a starfish because she dropped her fucking precious earring in a tide pool, and And she was like, oh, well, the most common thing in these tide pools are these starfish, and they've got arms that can things, so I'm Gooch. So she goes in to grab it, and a child picks her up and cuts her in half with its shovel. And then she's like, oh, well, as long as I demorph, I'll be good, I'll be fine, I'll go. So you get the classic, I have an evil clone now scenario, which I don't remember exactly. I don't remember exactly how they fixed that, because the good Rachel is too good, and the evil Rachel is the one that they need for mission. So I think they had to morph the same animal at the same time while physically touching, or they had to like acquire each other or something.
It's useless. The evil Rachel is competent.
Can
they both morph, or is what?
No, they can both morph individually. So the thing is, I think had happened. The way they did it was they had to acquire each other, which is completely stupid because they're both each other anyway. And then morph at the same time, the same animal, and it would just merge them because the Ghost Rider needed a way out. So as time goes on, you get another story. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I was saying it just pulls off of that same storyline when in Jackie Chan Adventure Zone when he first discovered the tiger
talisman, yeah, the whole talisman thing.
And then there was like an evil and good Jackie.
Yeah, it's basically just that. So the small guys also come back eventually. There's a book where there's some time shenanigans, and the evil god tries to get Rachel on its side because Rachel's like the most easily corruptible on the team apparently, because she's violent. There's one where Jake travels into the future and is himself, but on the book it makes it look like he morphs into his older self, but he's himself. It's basically showing a timeline where they stopped being Animorphs and become the Animorphs are either dead or they're either dead or they're controllers. And then he goes, no, I can't let that happen. There's one where an ant and a fucking buffalo, two animals that don't have anything in common, touch the cube and somehow gain the ability to morph, even though it's been implied that in order for you to be able to gain the power to morph, you have to physically touch the cube. Otherwise, David would have already had the fucking power. So the Ghost Rider completely blanks on that, and the team of K.A. Applegate just goes, nah, it's Chief. So you get shenanigans like that. And then you get a point where the Animorphs crank up the war. They get a bunch of crippled people and go, hey, since you were crippled after birth, if you gain the power to morph, you will no longer be, which means that they also can't go back to their families if their families are controllers. So, I mean, they can't go back in general, even if they're not, because they'd have to explain why they're fucking that. So they become the fucking, I forget what they call them, they're like the reserve Animorphs, which don't get attached to them because they all fucking die in the war. It gets to the point where the people that don't have any control, like Marco basically kills his as the war ramps up. He pushes her off a fucking cliff and she dies. And then they kill her Yeerk. They also find out somewhere in the 20s that there are Yeerks that aren't all homicidal, empire-driven people. A lot of the lower level people have started to bond with their hosts and are like, hey man, we want a peaceful resolution to this, so we'll also help you. Which gets around the fucking hologram problem that the androids had so many books back when they introduced the idea that the holograms no longer. Then they take all the family that isn't controllers, and they go to fucking Witch Mountain and they just live there. And then the Animorphs just do guerrilla tactics like they've been doing for the rest of the time while waiting for the fucking Andalites to show up. And then they eventually have a war. Spoilers for the book, Rachel dies. And then she gets her own little narration in the book where the god basically, while she's dying, freezes time and tells her the story of his life. And I would have been like, fuck you, just let me die. Fuck off. I don't want to learn that you're some kind of fucking neckbeard screensaver guy.
I'm gonna freeze time while I tell you my backstory. I'm in horrible pain. Don't worry, it'll be over in a minute. Yes, but you froze time, so that minute could be days.
Well, what are you gonna do, brother?
Two things. Number one, recording's almost reached 2 hours. That ends almost 12:30.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm trying to finish this so I can finish off the Animorphs thing.
You want to wrap up real quick?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. So
Okay,
they have their war. They basically they win. The Andalites manage to win. Jake kills his brother. The Taxons, who were being led in a rebellion by Elfangor's friend that got stuck as a Taxon. He basically created a revolutionary army, and they helped out by infiltrating the Yeerks and fucking with their shit. They get the deal of, hey, you guys like being long, weird creatures? What if you all morph giant pythons and live in the Amazon and fat? And they all got to do it, except Elfangor's friend, who lived in the reserve with them after the war, and then got shot by poachers. So they go on a little while longer. Jake gets fucking put in jail for war crimes because he did have to do war crimes to win the war, essentially. And they go, hey, we're gonna take you out of prison because we sent Elfangor's little brother to go do an Eiffel Tower in space somewhere, and he's gone. And we need you to gather up a team. So him, his best friend Marco, Tobias, and a bunch of other like cadets that are under him, well, not cadets, but like soldiers that are under him, board a ship that they christened the SS Rachel in honor of his cousin. They fly out into space and find out that the thing that attacked Axe's ship is a fucking goddamn hive mind mass of flesh that may or may not be working for the Dark God as its new champion. And they leave on the cliffhanger of, we're gonna ram this fucking thing with our ship and hope it pushes it through its fucking little spatial warp and protect the universe. Once again, we're going out as heroes. And that's how that fucking series ends. It's fucking insane. And it's why it's one of my favorite book series.
So I love the fact how both you and Jared did basically an in-depth synopsis of you guys' books. Well, I only just scratched the surface of mine.
Well, that's what I figured we were doing. I figured you just didn't want to go into like super detail, but
I mean, it just say like then.
If you want to do a synopsis of it, that'd be fine. Also, side note, I thought you were gonna say, spoilers, Rachel dies, and then Andalite comes like, don't worry, I can freeze you in time, where you got Eiffel Tower by two other Andalites from space.
God, that would suck.
Alright then, so
oh my God, leave me alone!
if we get the book thing again, I could talk about it more, because I'm thinking I love Jason Asano's story in He Who Fights Monsters. And I'm actually excited for him to go back into it, because they actually let on the best part though, where like the whole point is though, like I'll be quick, is that the whole story of it though, he was in that world, he died, and apparently through some cosmic bullshit he got revived back on his own planet, and it goes on that trope where like, oh, it turns out his own planet wasn't devoid of magic at all. It was a conspiracy to cover it up, to make sure that the people are safe, and that type of thing. And so he found out that the government and them are like also had the same system, power-based system, and he knew what he was in, and so he had to go and help them, but it goes off of that fact that he was mentally going down, and so he left the Earth in not so good terms and went back to his friends, because then he needed support where the whole entire book he had none. And so it made the fact that he went on this mental thing to where he went through a lot of trauma and a lot through this, so he had to do it all by himself. And he got his friends back, so he got better and better. But the cosmic, the powers that be, kept on getting in the way of his life, so it caused him to actually be more angry now. And that's why overall he needs more time with his friends and just be a regular adventurer rather than just a cosmic deity he turned himself to be. Which, and again, if we go back to more in-depth definition, I'll explain to how he got there. And so at the point before the author got into his coma, they went back to the Earth because he established his bridge in order to connect both worlds, so he can go back and forth and also stabilize the dimensions between both worlds. And he made a lot of preparation though for him to come back, because then when he left, he was basically a giant, powerful tyrannical ruler, and the fact that they realize he's coming back, and the fact that he's now just as powerful as their powerful elites. And that is not very good. All because a lot of the government shafted him, thinking, "Oh, he's not powerful. We can use him and discard him." And and then years later he comes back as powerful as their elites, going, "Oh God, we used him. We haven't discarded him, and now he's coming back as powerful as our elites that even we can tank. Can't take down." The consequences of my own actions, which is why he doesn't want to be seen as a dictator. So he has a human liaison to try and bridge the gap between them and them. Is like, but he's also establishing that he's not gonna be pushed over anymore. So we're like, I want to help you, but don't get in my way. That type of thing.
Yeah.
And so he did it there. And that was like a good 2.5 years, a good year and a half years ago, and that was like before he went on his coma. So that's why I'm excited that he's working on the next installment, and so that's why I'll be like, yay! Earth Saga Part 2. Hopefully, he won't be used again. But this time though, he is because the current power dynamics though is that they go from what's called Iron Rank to go to like Diamond Rank, and they just discovered that there's also a transcendental rank, which is above like kind of like what's the word with the transcendental like celestial that type of thing. But it's anyway though. The power dynamics of both worlds is that since Earth is so devoid of magic for such a long time, they don't have the power ambient magic to even manage a gold rank, which is why a lot of their gold ranks were in animation, and until they find out what to keep them alive.
Boosted.
And so that's why the point is that he's coming back to Earth as a gold rank now, and there's only like 3 or 4 gold ranks in the entire world of Earth, while there are like 50 plus diamond ranks in the world he's coming from. That's how disparity of it is. But then again, it's Earth, our Earth, and
very little magic,
And well, they're getting magic now because at the bridge he made, so they're getting more and more magic though, and so it'll sooner or later it'll equalize between the two worlds now. Since they just discovered that the world the magic world and also his world are basically mirrors of each other, and that type of thing. Because a lot of the continents and are the same, except the magic ecology was discovered during the Renaissance, so that's so how they grew was different. But anyway, I'm gonna stop there before I go off another hour-long tangent.
The planets are Eiffel Towering.
Yes. I'm glad this became a meme. When we roll the wheel again, if we get back to anything related to books, we could go back that. I know Edward has more things to talk about Animorphs.
I can go more in depth
when it comes to books, but that'd be next time.
But I can go more depth with the Hero Fights Monsters because the fact that I can explain more about the part dynamics, and also in the current story that he added the his unique power to the entire multiverse, which is guess what? It's video game system HUD, which I love. I love stories with that. But anyway, that'll be it for me.
This was 69 FM The Head. Remember to like, share, and comment. And maybe click on the video. Something that YouTube thinks you'll like.